sky, and they look up, and there's this giant craft. It looks like a craft coming over the school. It's so huge. It covers about 2/3 of the sky. I mean, it covers the sky and stays there for about 10 minutes, moves upward, turns on its side, and takes off. And, one of the kids runs up to the teacher and says, "Was that a UFO?" And the teacher says, "Yep, that was a UFO," because he had no other answer for it. So,
again,
clearly
it's just so strange. It doesn't get out in the media. That's, I guess, where they are trying to debunk all this stuff about UFOs. But you imagine all these young kids that see it. They know for the rest of their life there is things out there that they're being lied to in school and from the government, from society. That's the main thing, and I think maybe that's why these aliens are doing it. Undoubtedly, it has to be.
Yeah,
and all these
backdoor way to announce their presence.
I was going to say, all these children, they're now grown adults now too. So I'm sure they've got some kind of involvement into it, studying it, researching it, or trying to get it out to the forefront.
One thing, have you ever checked, Preston, of any of these kids that's seen these UFOs at school and stuff? Has there been any reports of any of these children being ever abducted?
Yes, and the answer is yes. It does happen. There's a number of cases where people have been witnesses to these events and subsequently had visitations. So it appears that is, certainly connected to this. And I think this is an agenda of theirs. It's clear by their behavior and by how it's so widespread and regular. It occurs, like the Hillsdale, Michigan case, very famous, occurred in March 1966. It was 1 month later that the Melbourne case, Westville High School, occurred. And 1 year after that, it was Opelika, Florida. These guys are visiting schools on a regular basis in a clear agenda to convince children of the reality of UFOs, and have been, I think, really successful. I think they're trying to create a sort of a universal belief in UFOs, and that's really kind of what we're seeing now, especially among the younger generations.
It seems like it. Now, where is this book available at, Preston?
It's available at bookstores or online bookstores, Amazon. You can go to my website as well. I've got excerpts there. And, this is still going on. That's what's so surprising to me. There's so many cases. And for them to target the youngest of our children, it just touches my heart. I first got interested in this when my own sister-in-law talked about seeing gray ETs in front of Stagg Street Elementary School, which is here in Van Nuys, California. She was a college student at the time. She did attend that school when she was in elementary school. But I'm thinking to myself, why in front of an elementary school? What's going on here? It was so strange. And that was years ago. And every now and then I would run across these schoolyard cases and finally connected the dots.
Well, maybe they're trying to prepare the young people when they get older for ET contact. So, remember the War of the Worlds, which I played a little bit of, earlier in the show. People freaked out when War of the World hit out. A couple people, a farmer killed his wife and kids because he thought it would be better than the aliens, attacking him. Concrete, Washington, like 140 or 160 miles from me. At the same time that radio played, their power went out, and everybody grabbed their guns because they thought these aliens were going to be attacking them because of that thing. But maybe this is a good way to let the young people know through the years that we're going to have contact one day, soon.
Yeah, this is something that the children do carry with them, certainly. James mentioned that these children are affected for the rest of their lives. It's very common for them to say, I think about this daily. But beyond that, a number of them have become, physicists and very interested in this subject. A good example is Malcolm Robinson. He had a sighting at his elementary school up in Scotland, Banchory Primary School. He and his friends saw this saucer-shaped object just hovering there, and silver metallic, silent, and they look away and it's gone. And it was, some time later, he's now one of Scotland's leading UFO researchers, and wrote, the sort of primary book on UFOs over Scotland.
Makes logical sense. I got to ask you a question. How are people accepting your books out there?
Oh, very well. Yeah, I'm getting some great reviews, and seeing a number of them on the, Amazon bestseller list, which is always a good sign. And yeah, they're not bestsellers by any means in terms of me making millions of dollars. For whatever reason, this subject is still a hard sell.
Well, but it's changed.
Mainstream society.
It's changed. We were talking about this the other night on the show. For years it went into ghost hunting. Okay, and mediums. Those things are kind of like forte, and it seems like in the last year or so, it has shifted away from Bigfoot, ghost hunting, more into UFOs. Because I have had a lot of guests on my show, a lot each month, talking about either being abducted, seeing UFOs, or whatever. And the listeners eat it up. I mean, seriously. I mean, they want more and they want to hear more. So I think people are getting primed to, and are expecting something. I think they are.
Yeah, well, the guy I'm interviewing in England now, he's like, I think everybody's being abducted. He's seen large groups of people aboard UFOs, and they were unconscious. And he's like, I've heard this before from other people. So most of these people who are being abducted don't have a clue. They don't remember it at all. And it wouldn't surprise me, I first heard J. Allen Hynek, a quote from him, saying 1 in 40 people have had an onboard UFO experience. And I thought, no, that's impossible. I was just new to UFO research and looking into the literature. Read that, and I'm like, well, I know 40 people, and didn't have to ask that many, honestly, to find people who've had face-to-face contact or an onboard experience or missing time.
Yeah.
So it's a lot more common, for sure, than I think even people within the UFO community realize. I just have a funny feeling they're preparing us. Being that these people may be being abducted, maybe not the ones that are having their finger, alien putting their fingers down their throat and coming out their nostrils, like Calvin Parker had, but maybe they're abducting us and then implanting things into their head for, they're prepared. Because I don't think if they weren't prepared, it would be like what happened when War of the Worlds hit the radio. People would freak out. The only thing I am scared is that the politicians still want to have control of whatever they're doing. And that's the part I don't trust because, there's so many rumors going around that maybe if something does start happening, maybe they'll use that for another reason to try to get the people together to support our government. When people are really unhappy right now with our government. Yeah, and our government has a terrible reputation. There's no reason. It doesn't surprise me a bit that people aren't happy. And this UFO situation is definitely part of it. Covering up information has never done anybody any good. Just creates fear and paranoia. People have to make up their own stories about what's going on. And so it's absolutely to our government's benefit to reveal this information. But it's going to be a sticky situation no matter how this rolls out. I can't see this coming out without, some heads rolling, and people are going to, how can the government possibly disclose all this information?
That's going to be
really
hard.
Difficult for them.
It's hard because you know what? Like if you ever knew somebody who was a psychopathic liar and had to tell a lie to cover a lie to cover a lie, that's what's been going on about UFOs all the way back from the late 40s all the way up to now. It's like, like I said, where they're going to give, maybe a little information out, and then all of a sudden they give a little information out, and then you got somebody else to try to debunk it, and that's coming from the government. So they're trying to keep people confused. That's my feeling.
Yeah, I think we are heading for disclosure, but it seems to be very heavily controlled and just drip by drip. We've had literally no movement for years and years, other than this, Pentagon thing and the fuzzy pilot footage. I've seen much better footage than that, so I was kind of disappointed because I know right behind the curtain is the flying saucer itself, the alien bodies. It's all a little bit of a dance, and it's very frustrating for, I think, people who are having UFO experiences, certainly for the UFO research community, trying to get people to take this subject seriously. It's exhausting.
Well, to call up your local newspaper, well, there's not many of those around, but call up your local news radio station, TV station, say, I saw a UFO last night. It was hovering over my house. You know what you're going to get? And they're going to say, where do you live? And you tell them, and they say, okay, well, thank you. And that's the end of it.
Right. It gets on the radio, by the way. It often gets on the radio, and if people can capture footage, and there's another piece of footage, we do see bits and pieces of that. But by and large, most of the stuff ends up on YouTube and just inundated with sort of hoax photographs and hoax videos that it's impossible to differentiate which is real out there and which is not.
That's disinformation. And I you know what? I get a lot of that sent to me. And it for every little bit of positive, you get a whole bunch of disinformation. Now, besides this one book about the schoolyard UFO thing, why don't you name like 2 or 3 other books that you want, to let the people know about? And if you have a website, go ahead and plug that before we let you go.
Yeah, well, The Healing Power of UFOs, 300 true accounts, again, from all across the planet. I'm very excited about that book. I think it's kind of unique and don't see a lot of that out there, but all from major researchers. Another book I'm pretty excited about is Undersea UFO Base. I've been researching UFO activity coming in and out of the water here off the Southern California coast for many years.
Can I ask you a question? Do you think the water coming out of California, maybe they're coming all the way from Area 51 and back?
Right. I think it's a distinct possibility because some of these cases, Gary, are not just a few UFOs. We're talking 50, 100. So there's 4 cases that are involving hundreds of objects. That is unusual, to say the least. Where are they all coming from?
They're coming from somewhere, going and coming, yes.
Yeah, it's one of the data points that I explore in this book. There's a number of data points. There's an enormous amount of activity over a very sharply defined area. It's something really incredible is going on there. So I'm still getting reports about that. And all the stuff is available on my website. If you just Google my name, and it should take you there. The actual address is PrestonDennett.Weebly.com. And if you want to contact me with a question or a story or a comment, I always love hearing from people. And thanks for having me on the show. I really appreciate it.
Well, Preston, like always, you've been on the show several times before. People love it when you're on. Tonight, we actually got more intense, talking about Area 51, talking about the schoolyard, talking about abductions. So we really covered a lot tonight. And I do want to thank you a lot, my friend, for coming on.
Hey, always a pleasure. I had a great time.
Okay, sir. You take care.
Thanks, Preston.
Night. So, James, we're almost out of time. We got like 3 minutes left. I tell you, it makes you really wonder, why would UFOs appear over schools? And going back, well, I think it's because to get the young people prepared for maybe what's coming down the pike.
Yeah, I think you're really onto something right there, because there was several instances, and I do remember that Zimbabwe case. That was quite a case, but yeah, I think you're onto something there.
And it's just frustrating. You don't hear about it on our local news, like NBC or CBS, ABC. They just don't talk about it. Or if they do, it's like, hardly anything. And I think, I think people should even contact their news agencies, like the ABCs and all that, CNN, and say, hey, we want you guys to cover this more than you do and take it seriously.
Absolutely. And I think that generation, I think the